you go like this. Just make sure that it's working
Yeah,
properly.
the red dot is on.
No, even if it's on, yeah. What? It's filming. Very good. We're going to be editing anyway after that.
Fine.
Okay, so take two. You're good. So, hi, I'm Michel Labrèche, author of The Wizard of Oz 2 or The Sole Purpose, and in the midst of my book Diffusion for North America and for Europe, English-speaking people, I'm doing this interview, this series of an interview, in fact, and this one is with Dr. Andrew Michrowski, who's a doctor in architecture and has worked with the government as a Secretary of State and has worked with the Indian Affairs too. So, hi, Dr. Michrowski.
Yeah, hello.
So, we were discussing before, because of course we already did an interview in French and now we're doing the English side.
Yes.
And so, let me ask you a question of first thing. We are on sacred ground here because we're at the corner of Le Portage and La Chaudière, the river.
Right.
And you told me previously that it was a sacred land, that people came over all from North America to here thousands of years ago. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay. Well, first of all, it would be nice to think, why was this place ever found? Well, near here, within about 1 or 2 kilometers here, was the end of the glaciers.
Yes.
And these glaciers were about 1 kilometer high, and then they would slowly, over thousands of years, decrease in height. But they didn't decrease very much from this area. They stayed for some time. This rideau, if you wish, curtain of glaciers, started more or less from Mackenzie River Valley and went all the way to more or less like Anticosti Island,
Yes.
to the north shore of Quebec.
Yeah.
So anyone, and of course, as they melted over thousands of years, there will be different lakes. Some of them we still have now, which is the Great Lakes.
Great Lakes.
And of course, we have the Ottawa River too. And there was once a period for about 1,000 or 2,000 years that the St. Lawrence River flowed into the Mackenzie. It went the opposite. So it wasn't always like flowing to the Atlantic. It was going the other way. So you had a knowledge base that here is a way you can follow. You always have this wall of ice or whatever, or certain types of lakes, like Lake Winnipeg, and so on, Saskatchewan River, something you could follow to go east or west. So any adventurous naked person who wanted to go beyond the little place where they live, or the nomadics, in some cases, lives, would have an easy way of going and coming back with no problem. For about 6,000 or 7,000 years, this area here was even more tempered than now. Even though there was ice, there was much more vegetation, and that's why also, with that memory, you have things like corn and wheat even were grown by the native people, and many herbs were developed even for healing purposes, because the temperature was so nice. It was not necessarily as wet as now. It was a little drier and a little warmer than what we know as seasons along these glaciers. Okay.
It was kind of a valley, right?
Yeah, sort of like a valley. Now, so that's one thing. So you have the people going from the west to the east and from Labrador to here. And we know that people even came from Labrador, even from Manawan, of all things. From the things that are found in these islands here, little pieces of stone that only exist in certain parts of the world. Like, there's certain rocks you can only find in Thunder Bay. There'll be certain rocks you only find in the northern tip of Labrador, and you find all kinds of objects like that. But you also find seashells that come from Carolina. You also find other things that come from the Arizona and New Mexico. So it was a place to come to.
You're talking about Victoria Island, right?
Victoria Island, La Chaudière Falls. The Chaudière Falls were already the second largest fall in the world. in North America, I'm sorry.
After
But
Niagara.
Niagara Falls was not known to the white people, you know, like it was not accessible, very hard to reach. So people, when they came to North America, like Europeans or even some Asians, would want to see the Chaudière Falls because it was so splendid. They were also splendid because of another characteristic. First of all, there's a lot of mica. Now it's all gone, it was all used for industry. So that not only were the falls very vibrant, but they shone with the brightness of the stone. It was
Yes.
like on silver, as if
Of
water is
course.
falling on silver, you know.
So the view must have been spectacular.
And then you have all these ions in the air, very fresh. So people came here, I'm now talking to the indigenous people, to recreate themselves. Some of the best medicine men and so on would be around to heal people. And there was also a meeting place for political reasons.
So it's like a wellness center.
It was a wellness center, but it was also a place of neutrality. It was, no one was allowed to go to this area with any arms.
That's interesting. So
It's
that,
like telling people, don't take a cell phone when you go to an American base. You keep it outside.
of
okay?
course, of course.
Well, there they had to, instead of cell phone, they took away the arms. So.
Okay, so I have a theory that I know that you talked to me previously about a famous prophecy about the native people here, the
Yeah, well,
autochthon.
it's actually, first of all, there's the notion, I don't know how they did it, but the native people call North America Turtle Island. This is a common idea. And think about it. You can say, well, one paw is Alaska, the other paw is Labrador, the one of the feet is Florida, and the other one is Baja California.
Yes.
Okay? And of course, you have the neck is near somewhere like Hudson Bay, you know.
Yes, and
So-
the
so
end would be Quebec.
If you would. So you have, and there is also, in addition to this old prophecy or saying, that out of Turtle Island, out of North America, will be peace for the whole planet, the notion of the whole world. And it was elaborated more recently, about 15 years ago, by an Algonquin chief from Maniwaki, who stated that the Chaudière had to be liberated, the water should flow like in the past, and with this flow, and the islands that are here that can stay as neutral territory still, one could hope to have what they call the gifts that we, that's the native people, can offer to humanity. So first, the idea is that from the yellow race of the world, they have the gift of vision. They can see things. They see things.
Yes.
And you can see that today when you see how India, Malaysia, China, Japan, Korea have a certain perspective about a thing which is very interesting. Just to put you in an idea of how real this is, when we use Windows, you have these icons. You know,
Yes.
that was a Japanese idea, that you put lots of thinking, lots of concepts, lots of
Into the same
software
file, in the
into
same-
one picture.
Yeah.
You click that and you have restaurants, for example,
Yes.
or you click, you have bank or whatever.
It's like a resume.
But that is a
Japanese
real
view.
yellow idea, yellow race
Okay.
idea, to see things that way. We would never have been able to think like that. We think in huge, complicated systems and formulas and so on, but they saw it like images.
But over the years, the yellow people, the Chinese and Japanese and Malaysian people, have developed what I call the lower mental side of the brain, being able to progress rapidly with their thinking process. So
Yeah,
you know
well,
that
it's more like awareness.
Yes.
Okay, now.
about the red people or the Indian.
This is what here the Canadian Indian
Yes.
people are saying this, okay? The second race is the red race, that's them. And that they have the gift of time, like time is, like, you know, like 10,000 years is nothing, okay?
Yeah.
Time, and we relate to it. They say we, the native people, relate to it, and we understand it. And this, in this sense, time represents nature. Nature is a way of demonstrating time.
Timeless cycle and cycles over, and
No,
everything is in the
it's not
nature.
everything grow and they change, etc.
Yes.
It's always time.
The seasons.
But their message for today is that the world is running out of time. The world's also destroying nature,
Of course.
okay?
That's why we have to intervene and do something
But
about it.
we don't have very much. Now the black race, they have the gift of reason. They figure things out. They're very good at that. As a matter of fact, if you think about it, the first Homo sapiens came from Africa.
Of course.
And they had the way of figuring out how to survive and how to do things, etc. So that, and they have a certain kind of knowledge. Now the white people, we're so nervous and excited. We have the gift of movement, and we have the gift to bring things to wisdom.
Yeah.
Do whatever wisdom tells us, we can do it. Okay. But if we, so the native people are saying here, if we mix the races,
All those things.
we become peacemakers. We are then if we mix together everything, we become the bridge of communication and of understanding, and that gives us an acceptance and respect between peoples.
So if we have time, and if we have vision, and if we have the tradition, and if we have the movement, all this together forms a uniting thing, and out of that can come the total wisdom. And by the way, this is why I wrote my book, The Wizard of Us, because in us is a sleeping wizard that has to be set free when they are really creative. So can you just finish on the prophecy, and after that we'll do on the creative nature of human?
Well, no, but that's basically the sharing part. Now, in the more recent aspect of this thinking, reason why this area here is the falls and the islands is important is that it has a memory of peace, a memory of resilience, if you wish,
Wellness.
and resurrection, and helping. Resurrection in the sense that many people who were very sick came from all over to be healed here, and they were. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it for thousands of years. No, there's nothing like the word of mouth, you know. I got healed here, you know.
Yes.
You go too.
So times as confirmation that
Yeah.
this was a wellness place.
Now, I've noticed when I did measurements there of the island that the magnetic field is very elevated, very high. There's lots of ions too, even with the barrage that is built, you know, for the fall. We still have lots of good leftover stuff. And about 2 years ago, native people came from different parts of Canada, and as part of the United States too, and they planted a tree there called the Tree of Peace as a symbol of what it could be. And that's interesting. Instead of building a monument or with some material,
They planted a tree, but that's nature, that's them,
right.
that's them.
That's right.
Okay, so how about the creative process in the human mind?
Well, I think in the analysis that was done within our association, Planetary Association Clean Energy, we worked a lot on the work, we worked on and analyzed the achievements of Nikola Tesla. And one of the most interesting things in Tesla as a personality, as an inventor, was that he had the ability, which is not too uncommon for people like in Slovenia, Croatia, and so on, even Venice, I'm talking about hundreds of years have passed, of being able to see and figure out spaces and to memorize them. As a matter of fact, in the Renaissance period, a very favorite party game that people made was to remember a room that they were in, usually a fantastic room, very well elaborated. We're talking about rich people.
With lots of
And
items,
they would remember everything, you know, how many bricks there were and how high was.
and how many books and
pillar,
candeliers.
You know, what was the lamp like and what were the the thing that
You remember details.
Yeah, every detail. And this ability to memorize and to relive it and even describe it again, like instead of watching television, they would see again whatever they liked and see every part of it.
In their mental screen.
Mental space. Well, Tesla had the ability to do scientific experiments and mathematics this way too. I was brought, I knew that he was able, like for example, Tesla in the beginning had, in order to survive economically, he worked for Edison with a direct current system, and he was repairing them all over the world. He first in Europe and then the United States, repairing them. He even repaired huge turbines for ships that were direct electric. But he never had enough money to develop his system, which is the one we use now, alternative current, which came as a dream, as a vision while he was in the park 10 years before in Vienna. And he had this image of what sine wave would look like and how you could make generators. You know.
Yeah, I know that Thomas Edison was not for alternative current.
But anyway, there was this case that he had to design an electrical system for a monarch in Strasbourg, in France, for a railway station to open it up, and the monarch was going to come like 7 o'clock in the morning in the train, and there was no electricity. And Tesla, based on his own vision that he had 10 years before, was able to put an alternating current system, generation, transmission, and all the things that were necessary to put it on overnight.
Overnight.
Just from memory.
From memory.
For something that never built.
So what I think is that Tesla had the vision and the notion of time and the notion that you talked about in your prophecy, and the movement and the time and the vision and the tradition, all inside one person, and himself alone could have changed the society as we know it, but unfortunately he was not funded by J.P. Morgan.
Here's the point I was going to get to, that we're looking in the future, is that this type of creativity is an aspect of that we can cultivate in people.
Yeah.
To be able to be focused enough to think things through and to, from visualization to realization. And that is a great hope for young people to be able to think this way. Now, what is happening with all these little cell phones and crazy little things people do?
Yeah, iPads.
Unfortunately, what's occurring to many young people, especially, is that they are losing lots of their own ability to concentrate, to even coordinate, and to socialize. That's one thing. But they are learning that there are things you can do very fast, and there are things you can do almost just by willing and no effort. So once these young people realize that this is all a fad, but they know that there is a certain magic possible, and that this magic they can do with their mind. This will let people to be more like Tesla, to be able to create things from their imagination and to put it into reality, into their lives.
I have two things to say to that to be complementary to you. Is first thing, this technology is very good on the one side, because it allows to develop the magic with the will, but on the other side, sometimes you have people that are dependent from that technology, and you're at the table having a lunch, and the sister is texting his brother across. I've seen that. And some of my friends or parents are confiscating the cellular when they eat, because otherwise they are so much involved in the translation and the communication like that, that they are losing the sense of even the self-teaching ability of being creative.
And they're also forgetting themselves.
Yes. The other thing I want to say is that writing by handwriting, coordination by making letters is much more different than to type. Because if you do this, brain connection. Brain connection.
Yeah, every time, for example, if I move my finger like this, there will be some neurons in my brain that will be activated. if I use my mouth, if I hear,
some of the
how does
parts.
it- and that's why we're learning the way we've done it since about 200 years more or less, was always based on you had to hear things, you had to say things, like people, like little kids have to say A, B, C, like they have
course.
to use their mouth. Well, it was just to make their brains work in certain areas, okay?
Fact.
At the same time, they'll be writing too, see? So the learning was the coordination of several different activities in the brain. Children now don't have that, but what that experience, and this is not good, but I think this will create such a huge crisis that there'll be like a revolt against it, and that's where you have the poo.
What we call a backlash.
But
Of
you may
course.
have what they say in the military, lots of collateral damage.
Yeah, so in some end, people like our age were sometimes taught by religious people, by, in the old times, and even we had people that if they were writing with their left hand, they would be snap with a rule and say, please use your right hand.
That's very Quebecois.
Yeah, I know. But what I want to say is that since then, we have acquired other means of evolving creatively. But sometimes you lose on one hand, but you gain on the other hand.
I'll bring you a very interesting, you could point out, that severity that was experienced in Quebec was something terrible, and as one of the worst in the world, as a matter of fact, of that nature. And yet I heard from a French priest, one of those priests that goes in the streets, the old, after World War II, there were lots of priests who were workers, who moved to Quebec, and this is recent, and he said, Andrew, people don't go anymore to church, people don't do lots of things, but I've never seen more spiritual people in my life. And they're more spiritual than the people who used to have faith. And that's the kind of situation you will see, that people who use now cell phones will get so frustrated and so angry at what they've been fooled into, that they will become like the Quebecers, more advanced, and they'll say, the hell with all of this.
More spiritual, more conscious, more conscious.
They'll be more creative.
More
And
creative.
they'll be more themselves.
Yeah.
Like you say, the Wizard of Oz and all this type of thing. Yeah.
So the thing is that we have talked about a lot of different topics, and one of the topics is the smart meters. And of course, I know you have a lot of experience in that because you tested some buildings on the Canadian scale. And talk to me about that, about the smart meters, and what does it hinder on the natural forces around the human body?
Smart meters are really transmitters. They're not really meters, first of all. As a matter of fact, by law, they're not meters. They don't have to observe any rule of metric Canada, measurement Canada, I should say. And they they don't belong to any legal category. They're something by themselves. Pushed by the utility company, pushed by all kinds of other interests.
But the question is, are they smart or not? That is the question, are they smart or not?
Oh, no, the word smart, think about it. That's smart. It hurts me. I got smarted, okay?
Yes.
That word is an Indo-European word which means that. Smart comes from smash. As a matter of fact, you've seen any James Bond movie,
Yes,
there's always smash. That's the horrible, evil thing.
of course.
That's the word for smart, okay? The notion of smart, as we now use it, as being something ingenious,
Transform.
is a very recent one. It's nothing to do with the origin of the word. So it's not a good thing in that sense. Now, the people who introduced the idea of smart meters were some very rich people, as a matter of fact, in Ireland of all places, who had decided that there must be a way that we can follow any individual.
So they don't want to really save money. The first agenda
No,
is
no,
to
but
follow
the
the consumption of electricity by an individual.
No. It would just have a way that, like, what better thing than put something in any house in the world, or any structure, and then you can follow whatever's going inside. That's the.
You're talking about Big Brother and Orson Welles in
No, it's
1984.
nothing to do with Big Brother.
Well,
This
in the
is-
sense that if they want to follow up and be
Yeah, but-
aware of what's the use or the consummation, then they can know more about people.
I don't think it was that simple.
agenda.
No. But anyway, there was this guy, and he had this idea, and this is way back in the 50s, 60s. Eventually, what he did, he bought the best metering company in Switzerland. They did water meters, gas meters, like valves and so
Yeah.
on. Very good. They blended the best of watchmaking with the best of mechanics, and they made excellent meters. And this guy bought this company, and then he started thinking of using the reputation, all the know-how, how to make things that could be put in any structure. Okay, so that's the notion of smart meter. Mixing that up with wireless transmission, so you have a device that works on two frequency bands. One is to listen to whatever is happening in the house, like usually in circuits. For the beginning, it's just circuits. How much are you using your refrigerator? When did you turn on the whatever? So it collects information all the time. And then, of course, to boot to that, this technology now has identification chips that are now put in things like even your
Yourself.
computer, but also to refrigerators and stove. They all have these RFIDs, so they can even tell more, not only that is your refrigerator on or not, but what may even be in there. For example, if you have bought an item that can be scanned, and say a piece of meat, then it will be known that you have bought such and such a meat and such store,
Because of the
such
RF.
and such part of your refrigerator.
Because of the RF in the
That's right. So that may seem all very innocent. I mean, who cares about what kind of beef steak I bought, But
Of course.
But for some people, it's very interesting. Give you an example. In the election for Mr. Bush in Florida, and Florida was a very important state, whether they would win or not the presidency. In order to save money, the Republicans did not want to phone people who would vote Democrat anyway. And one way of knowing whether people would vote Democrat or not, but just to give an example, was, did that person buy any diapers? Because in the logic of the Republican Party, if you have children, you will not vote for them.
So if you buy diapers, then you know that the vote will be that side
So
instead of
don't
that side.
bother even phoning that phone number.
Don't phone because you won't convince them.
The person who was able to send the information that here's 100,000 people in Florida who, have
What
such
diapers?
thing.
So
There's 100,000 phone numbers you don't have to call with your robot machine.
I understand.
Now, so there are all kinds of things that people figure out about what you do, how you do, even what program you watch on TV, etc. To say that you're good for this and good for that, etc. And here's what you can do with it. So there's a lot of money to be made with smart meters, and it's not from the electricity; it's from the information. Now, but that has not yet come to that point because we don't yet have the infrastructure which allows you to get all the information in one system.
So I have a question for you. How about people have told me that they are thinking about implanting puce?
Yeah, but that did not work. It was tried in several places, especially in Spain, for clubs, like nightclubs and so on, that people, instead of, people would get a chip.
Yeah.
So they would have, like, let's say, in order to get a chip, you put $100 aside, okay?
Yes.
So that there will be a chip put there and say you have $100 on you, and you could even go naked. You could have all the martinis you want, etc.
It's the same thing as a bank card, but
Yeah,
micro-sized inside your
Well,
hand.
what happened was that many people started having cancer.
Of
very
course.
quickly. No, but very quickly. We're not fast enough that people say, God, we can't do this. Doesn't work.
This is entering on the physical. You said to me before that the Indians and the autochthon people
Yeah.
were riding with the wind, because if you are with the force of nature, you are on the same side. But when you are against nature and you are compromising your physical body, of course there can be a reaction, like a recheck of a chip, and then you develop cancer. So that's very...
Yeah, that's very quickly. So they start being sued. All the people who made these little chips, okay? So they were called angel chips of all things, you know.
Oh my
so,
God.
So that's gone. I don't think that the company, they may want to use the software for something else. Now that something else is what's going to come as of the Olympic Games in Korea in a few weeks from now.
Yeah.
And that's the 5G technology, fifth generation. And the fifth generation technology is a little simpler to apply in Korea than here in Canada, United States. What it does, it allows you from one perspective to know everything, to intermingle all systems, with the water meters, smart meters, all telephone wireless systems that are for telephone, telecommunication, all police and government military system, hospital and records and so on. All is in one language, one communicable system that can be used very quickly and for any purpose at all.
So who wants to have this almighty information, and for what purpose?
Well, it's not just for
Is it a
for
group?
the time being. For the time being,
Yes.
the hope is that we can interlink things together. For example, that right now, for example, in Quebec, as far as I understand it, all smart meters technology goes to Hydro-Quebec, the information, okay? And if I understand it right from a court case where I was a witness, they use Videotron. That's why Videotron and Hydro-Quebec have
Merged together, yeah.
together, okay? So this way there is one service that can take in lots of information, including smart meter, but it could also say, listen, we can now help all police stations in Quebec to get anything you guys want, or all hospitals to get any hospital record of anybody in Quebec. If you want it, here it is, you know, and whatever, maybe law saying you can't give it to everybody, but there will be one unique service does it. And whoever has the service can make a huge amount of money.
And
Because there's all kind of collateral information that can be sold.
but is this not what the agenda of a one-world government, new world order?
Not
would
necessarily,
be?
even though, no, it may or may not, you know. So,
I can see the good out of it, because let's say you're in a remote area and you know you're lacking some things. Now with the drones, they can even deliver like some medicine with places
No, there's-
would be inaccessible
Sure.
by drone, and that's a very good thing.
no, there are lots of good things that happen, that's true. But the issue, in my point of view, besides what I've just described,